1935, a wave of fear was sweeping the country. Silicosis was taking its toll from the ranks of American workers. Cause of the disease, dust. Results of the disease, disablement, poverty, death. Cure for the disease, none. Throughout America, workers exposed to dust grew fearful of their health, of their very lives. 1936. Amid these alarming events, the Secretary of Labor called together a national conference to study this disease. A committee of 60 experts was appointed, and a year later reported to the Secretary of Labor. But let's hear from Miss Perkins herself.
After a year of work, the National Silicosis Conference Committee has just made its report of findings and recommendations, and I feel it to be my duty to make this report available to the working people of the United States and to their employers by every available method. This report shows how silicosis occurs, where it occurs, and what the disease is, and it makes recommendations for its practical control. Above all, the report emphasizes that these control measures, if conscientiously adopted and applied, that silicosis can be prevented.
This is the story of silicosis, a disease of the lungs caused by breathing fine particles of dust containing silica. Granite dust. Its small particles consist mainly of free silica. The smaller the particles, the greater the danger to human lungs. Here is a fine mesh screen with over 100,000 openings to the square inch. Notice how readily the silica dust passes through. Yet this screen is so fine that it holds water. Every drop poured into the sieve is poured back into the glass. Here, dust particles taken from the air are being analyzed to determine workers' exposure. Granite dust, particles of which can enter a workman's lungs and cause trouble. This cross-section shows the nose and throat passages through which dust is inhaled into the lungs. The fine dust particles enter the lungs and settle in the terminal air spaces. Physical and chemical changes occur. Scar tissue forms. Small at first, these scarred areas grow larger as time goes on. This tissue is fibrous, tough, and inelastic, and the lungs cannot adequately perform their task of carrying air to the blood. As a result, the affected worker becomes so short of breath, he can no longer do his job. This magnified section shows the alveoli, or small air spaces in the lungs. They supply life-giving oxygen to the blood. Silica dust clogs these spaces and deadly scar tissue forms. This is the way a silicotic lung appears to the X-ray. The black areas are dead tissue. Among many industrial operations where a silica hazard exists is the quarrying of granite, sandstone, flint, and other silica-bearing rock. This 35-ton block of stone has been hewn out of the quarry by pneumatic drills. These drills are dust producers. Those men are drilling in granite, and the dust cloud arising contains large quantities of free silica. The trade calls these tools jackhammers, but workmen often call them widow makers. These men are exposed to a serious silica hazard. Imagine breathing quantities of dust like this, 8 hours a day, day after day, year after year. After the stone is quarried, it is taken to the plant for surfacing and finishing. The granite surfacing machine produces quantities of dust. The worker must stand close to the machine in order to operate it. He is breathing dangerous dust. When crushed stone is passed over a vibrating screen, more silica dust is dispersed into the air. Workers nearby cannot escape this dust. Finely pulverized granite is put into bags to be used as asphalt filler or other uses. This machine is being operated in such a way that the workman must breathe in clouds of harmful dust, and this man is totally unprotected. The foundry shakeout, wherein castings are removed from the molds, is also a dusty operation. These two men are working without any protection whatsoever. They are potential silicosis victims. Here is a typical American workman. one of the million who are dangerously exposed to silica dust. His name is John Steele. Once a master molder, he is still working in this foundry after years of exposure to silica. Once strong and healthy, John Steele is now weak and emaciated. He is short of breath. He cannot do even this work properly. The foreman tells him that he is sick, incompetent, can no longer do a day's work, and that he must let him go. He hands John his last time slip. As a result of his disability, John, like thousands of others, is being fired. He is paid off. Broken in health and in spirit, out of a job, he must seek work elsewhere. John Steele was more fortunate than many another silicosis victim. He was able to find work in a tombstone shed, work which was not too heavy, and where he could earn a little money to help support his family. But he is still exposed to the enemy. Across John Steele's mind flashes his fate. How soon will it become a stark reality? How soon will he join the thousands of others who have succumbed to silica dust?